So I can't help but notice that you're not
Yeah,
at
I
home.
moved.
You've
No.
you've been flaunting the coronavirus restrictions a little bit.
Yeah, I hightailed it. I
Don't worry,
hightailed it.
I'll edit out all of that bit. You won't sound like an idiot.
Thanks, man. I hightailed it to the Galapagos. I
Yeah.
think that's where I am.
Yeah, it's a very convincing sort of backdrop that you've got there. But I do notice that sometimes your arm slightly disappears into a void of nothingness. Is that the Galapagos?
That's to do with the equator.
Oh,
So that's heat that you see.
okay. So it's heat waves.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like seeing an oasis in a desert. It's just like ripples
Exactly.
and it deletes your face or your microphone or your arm.
Exactly.
sometimes.
Sometimes I disappear completely.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind turning it off so I don't have like a seizure as I look at you. That's nicer. That's nice though.
That's me. That's what this photo should be.
So you've superimposed yourself over the picture of my boyfriend, in which I am embracing him on a very special trip that we took. Is there?
And you know what? You've never looked happier.
I've never looked happier.
No.
Is there some sort of message I
This is
should take
right.
from this positioning?
No.
It seems like you're explicitly almost superimposing yourself in the position of someone that causes me happiness. Is that the way I should interpret this?
Yeah. All right, back to regular life.
Oh, it is good to see you. It's been a month.
Oh man, you know what? I wouldn't. Don't tell Nick I said this, but I missed him.
Oh, I won't. I'll make sure that he knows he's a piece of shit.
Great. You can say it back now.
I have missed you. Of course,
We're
it feels
so cute.
more forced now that you asked for it, but I suppose that's kind of our dynamic.
Yeah.
I did. It's been there's been so many exciting things happening in both of our lives. I made a TV show. You sat in your house, and I just been eager and excited to catch up
know
and
what?
to tell you all about
You
it, to
know-
hear all about it.
Can I tell you?
uh-huh.
Can I tell you when we were scheduling this pod, I was thinking. I mean, I've got lots to ask you about what you've been doing at the TV show, and I was just like struck with, because sometimes I like to come to the table with a few bits and pieces. I mean, and I have, but clearly I've got nothing compared to you, and so it's like,
I don't think you should write yourself off so quickly. I am interested in knowing what the experience of Lockdown V2 has been like. So
yeah.
I hope that we can split things fairly equally this pod.
Oh, yeah, but I can't wait to hear about your show. I love that this is just like the preamble.
I was going to
the main
say,
show.
we could talk about any one of these
That's
things immediately.
coming later, guys.
This is
Stick
very
around
formal.
for that.
Sorry, guys, just looking at the agenda here, it says we're not talking about the important substance just yet. So
No.
I guess we will have to defer
We'll do that
but
after the intro.
Nice to acknowledge it.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, it comes a little bit later.
Yeah.
Wearing a branded T-shirt, I know.
I noticed that you're not.
Yeah, mine's in the wash.
They turned out good. They turned out good. These ones. The quality is a little bit to be. Yeah, the quality is not great, but I got a really good deal on them. So
Oh yeah, where did they get made? Locally? Is it organic cotton?
it's not. It is. It's just some label making place
Okay.
that a friend actually. Sorry, I've got a little echo here. A friend of mine kind of is involved with, so got a pretty good deal.
That's a weird way of framing something.
Yeah, I know.
He's involved with them.
Hold
He's
on.
employed by
A
them.
she.
No. She's involved with them. Oh, she does some work for them, or she owns.
The reality is,
no. She's involved with them.
she referred me to them. The involvement. She knew of them.
Wait, is that actually what it was? She actually has nothing to do with this place. She just knew that they existed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not involvement. You've vastly overstated her inclusion in this business enterprise. Just knowing I'm not involved with McDonald's just because I've heard of them.
Well, if you refer a place, I feel like, you've got some investment.
Does
there.
she get a cut?
No,
Okay.
not at
Nonsense.
all.
Ridiculous.
Not at all. However, I got mad discounts.
Okay. Why?
Just because I got this app called Honey. You've probably heard of it.
No.
It's actually this week's sponsor, Honey.
Okay.
It's actually an extension that you can put in your browser, and it automatically scans. If you're on a shopping website, automatically scans for the best possible price and runs through all these possible coupons that exist online and finds you the best price.
And that's spelt how?
Honey.
Okay, yeah. No, I heard you say it, but that doesn't help me to find it. Is it spelt like the food?
Is honey a food?
Uh-huh. Okay.
Not to bees.
That's a weird tangent. No, it is to bees. Bees eat honey. Oh my gosh, you don't know anything about bees.
Do bees eat honey? I thought they used it to protect themselves or something.
Okay. Oh, gosh, you need to watch my literally 3 to 4 year old targeted animated science show in which we explain how bees make honey, because apparently you have lived this long without understanding.
That actually sounds right up my alley.
It does. I could see you enjoying it while high. The built-in browser extension, Honey.
Yeah.
Okay. I was picturing
I'm
it could
you
be.
haven't heard of it.
No, because I have money, so I just don't use promo codes.
How are you going financially?
That's actually not true. I do use promo codes all the time. I'm going okay. You don't make much money making TV, but I'm pretty stable. I think this year is going to be my best financial year as a freelancer, which is cool. So yeah, I've worked back up to the level of savings that I had before I went freelancing, which is pretty cool. It took 3 years.
I'm weirdly in a similar position at the moment, which is weird because I've taken a pay cut, but I've had so much less to spend it on.
Yeah.
That I at basically the start of the lockdown, I just paid off all my debts. And that was the thing that was kind of like taking a chunk of my paycheck. And
was that the first lockdown or this lockdown, the second lockdown?
That was the first lockdown in March.
Right.
So I've basically, I'm not earning heaps of money, but I've been buying a bit of equipment for the I don't want to call it a studio, but yeah,
building up some
studio.
Yeah, you can call it that. You're a professional podcaster.
Well, I didn't mean for
musician.
the fucking podcast, for music making.
For your photography.
No, those are just I wouldn't call the nudes that I send you photography.
Neither would I, to be honest. Rule of thirds, mate.
I don't know why I'm saying this, probably because I just had a shot of vodka, but I took the most horrendous nude selfie just for myself the other day. It was gruesome. It was like
you took it deliberately to be bad, or you took a selfie and it was horrendous.
Well, I already fucking regret saying this, but I took it because I had like a little bit of a.
Oh God, no.
Oh, God.
No, see, I've decided I actually don't want to know the answer to that.
All right, so let me just tell you the angle, because I took it just before I went in the shower, because I usually, when I go in the shower, I like to listen. My favorite thing is to listen to a podcast in the shower. These days, it's my favorite thing because there's nothing else for me to do. But I put like a little speaker, so I have to set up my phone while the shower's running, while it's getting hot. And then I was like, oh, I've got this little, whatever, downstairs. So let me. I can't really.
Okay,
see
now
it,
I feel like we do need to know. I feel like we've come full circle now. Now we need to know what the thing is that you're trying to look at. This I didn't want to end up here, but I feel like it's now important. Too many people will be asking, "What's wrong with your dick?" You just need to say it.
It's not my dick. It's not even my balls. It's like my taint.
Okay.
I'm sorry about this.
So you took a selfie where your taint was visible.
No, so I took a selfie, but it was like of the taint, but I was looking I got my head just in it. If you can imagine that. So my head's just peering over my fucking knob. And I didn't find it was too blurry to see down there, but I looked great.
So it didn't even fulfill the purpose for which it was taken.
No.
Okay, great.
No. But then I deleted it. But then I realized that your phone actually, and I had a freak out because then I've got my photos automatically set to like uploading to iCloud.
Yeah.
And I deleted the photo instantly after sending it to a few people. And and then I realized that
Jeez.
that it's probably still in the cloud somewhere.
You brushed past that very quickly.
And, if I ever, or when I become super famous, I just thought that was the thing I thought, like, this is gonna haunt me.
Your problem isn't so much that the cloud, your iCloud holds that photo. If you deleted it on your phone, it'll delete in the cloud. The problem is you send it to other people, and now it's in their devices and their clouds, and that you can't take that back.
I just sent it to family, so it should be fine.
Oh, okay, that's fine then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Welcome to Deep Forward, everybody. It's been a little bit of a journey to get here. It's been a month. It's a little longer than normal times, but I'm so grateful that you've come back, and we've got many exciting things to talk about. This is a podcast in which we discuss the ways of the world and the people in it and the world outside our borders. I lost the thread there a little bit, but let's keep going. Sitting through the internet with me, Michael. Say hi, Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Michael. And my name's Nick. Hi, nice to have you with us.
You always do the intros as if you always say me or I am so grateful. You never say we.
It's because
which really creates the illusion, and it is an illusion, that you are in complete control of this podcast, which is kind of what your dad said to me the other day. What? Which you know how he said, it's nice to see you have some control over the podcast. By the way, me and your dad have been talking. Okay,
yeah, so that also didn't come up. Cool.
Yeah, I sent it to you. I sent you a screenshot.
Oh, I don't read things you send me. Your point about not being in control of the podcast is interesting to hear, and I'll put it on the agenda, and we'll take a look at it.
It doesn't bother me that
no,
you don't think I'm in control. Okay. That was surprisingly quick. Damn it! I have no control.
Yes, that's fair. If you want to, I do literally give you a point in the intro when you can say things. So if you ever want to say, hi, so grateful for you to be here. Thanks so much for taking part in our little journey together. My name's Michael. Join the club. You're welcome to, you can riff there. Typically, you just tend to be asked to be called silly names like Papa Mango.
That's really on you. That's my name. No,
it's really on you for not showing gratefulness.
Introduce me, I freeze up. I know when you're doing the intro, I know that you're doing the intro, I'm thinking he's about to say hi, Michael, and I got to think of some way to not sound like an idiot, which I always do. I always go like, yo, or something. Or I do what I just did before and go, hi, Michael, because that's the only thing that I can come up with that's like not taking myself too seriously, but then it sounds too stupid, and I always hate it. Sorry. It's pent up.
I didn't realize there was a lot of baggage.
It really was. I didn't realize either.
I'm sorry that I had no idea that this was such a touchy subject for you. And I'll endeavor to be more inclusive when I say in the future that we are grateful to be back, even though you have that ability to.
Okay, well, I'll appreciate that if you did do that.
Well, did you want me to do the intro again?
No.
Okay.
Just do it next week.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to make it feel like you weren't included in the podcast.
I actually do appreciate this.
You're an important
even though you're making fun of the apology as you're apologizing, which is crazy. You're literally parodying your own apology in real time.
I really appreciate everything that you do to make this podcast, I suppose, momentarily interesting.
Yes. Thank you.
And that's in a big part thanks to your efforts.
Okay. Brilliant. That's all I wanted to hear, honestly.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we could resolve this.
Good.
For years you've wanted to have a fight on this podcast, and now that it's happened, do you feel like more relieved? Do you feel like it went the way you expected?
We haven't had a fight in this podcast for a long time, and I think we could. Also, we've got some. Also, I assume this one we're just going to have a rambly catch up, but
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, but we're due for a fight, and I think we should have one. And I think there's definitely areas that is fertile ground for a good old deep fought bickering.
Okay, well, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Tell me how you're experiencing this lockdown. What's the Melbourne vibes like? You're a week and a half in? 2 weeks in?
A week and a half into the stage 4 lockdown.
Yeah.
But the area that I'm in has been was a hotspot area. So we were in lockdown before that, where we weren't under stage 4 restrictions, where we could at the moment we can only leave our house for an hour to exercise, and one person per household can go to the shops once per day.
Yeah, wow.
So
and it has to be the same person as well, right? Like the person who's the shopper continues to be the shopper.
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm not sure, but I don't think that sounds... Why would that be the case?
I don't know. That was how I'd interpreted it, that they wanted to minimize the number of people who could be going into the shops. So I had heard, like, if there was 4 people in a household, even if you're, like, flatmates and stuff, one person has to go and do that shopping. But I had assumed that was throughout, not day by day.
Well, I don't think so, but it does make a little bit of sense. But yeah, it's... I mean, obviously there's not many people out on the streets, but there is a sense of... certainly in this area, which has been locked down, it seems... And that's the thing. It feels like we have been personally locked down for quite a long time. Like my movements and my behavior on a day-to-day basis outside of the house hasn't really changed that much, because me and Emma were already doing that. We were already isolating and going out only on rare occasions.
Yeah.
So it really feels like, even though the harsher restrictions has come into play, that this has been quite an ongoing thing, and now it's like an endurance. It feels like endurance is the key.
Yeah.
To staying sane. And I mean, we've been doing all right. I mean, Emma and I are both working from home, so we're all right. And I've been throwing myself into music, which has been like such a blessing, because it just eats up time, and it's also, you don't feel like you're wasting time. And there's been there's probably like maybe 1 or 2 nights a week that I'm actually spending the night watching a movie or watching TV. I've been keeping really busy, which has been really great. But as far as Melbourne goes, there's definitely a bit of fear creeping in. I'm just going from social media, really, and talking to my friends that because of the uncertainty, because initially it was like 6 weeks lockdown, and then the reopen date for the city was going to be August 19th, and then a week and a half ago they said, all right, now stage 4 lockdown, and that's going to be for 6 weeks. So that date has pushed back. And then now it's like we're thinking Christmas time. And I mean, that's been the thing. That's my favorite time of year. That's been the thing in my mind that I'll be able to see my family and my cousins, and see people from home. That's totally up in the air right now.
Yeah.
And even ScoMo came out today and he was like, don't get your hopes up. So yeah, if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, then if the light at the end of the tunnel, and if the end of the light, and that light is Christmas, then that's going to be a real kick in the dick.
Yeah.
If that starts to look a little less hopeful. But yeah.
So how do you feel the sentiment towards the government for this lockdown is percolating? Do you feel like people are like, yes, finally, okay, let's beat this properly? Or is it a bit more like, oh, I can't believe they're expecting this of us. Oh, fuck that, I'm not going to stay home. Fuck the government, that, you know, I did it and it still got bad, so let's just fucking get over it and go out and live our lives. Like, where do you feel like the sentiment's at?
Well, I think with I mean, you're going by your social bubbles, aren't you? Because I mean, if I click on
and family, I suppose,
yeah, but I don't really have. I mean, I've got Ben and Laura here, but
sure,
they're
I just mean
my social bubble.
The royal we, the generic is considering all of those things. Yeah.
Well, I suppose the feeling is, let's all do this, but then there's a large portion of the population in Victoria that is pretty aggressively bitter and resentful towards Daniel Andrews, who's the Premier.
Yeah.
And there's an ongoing investigation at the moment as to whether, I mean, the government is actually in part or in full responsible for this second wave, because of their handling of private security and quarantine hotels.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that, but I mean, I only get glimpses of that when I click on like a news.com.au link and go into the comments section. You can really see, and it's you know, typically full of, from their names and their profile pictures, baby boomers that are the ones that are you know, pretty anti lockdown or anti mask wearing. That's been another thing. They made masks mandatory here, and a lot of people are pretty upset about that. And to be fair, it is, I mean, I agree with it, of course, but it is I don't know if you probably had that mandatory mask wearing.
We didn't have mandatory mask wearing. No.
I mean, going out,
I do have a mask. Like I wore a mask, so when I flew up to Auckland and stuff, I put one on the plane.
Sure.
Not because there's been any community transmission or risk of it, but it just felt like a courtesy, really, to other passengers that, look, let's just not take risks, right? Why?
Sure.
It's not that much of an injustice flying from Christchurch to Auckland to put on a paper mask for an hour. You know.
Yeah.
I thought it considerate. But
everyone adopted it here.
Yeah.
Instantly. And you know what's funny about the mask wearing? As soon as, you know, Melbourne's a little bit it's full of trendsters. Basically, the day masks were made mandatory, you've got everyone with their own kind of unique masks, like out in the street, and I've seen heaps of people on, you know, Instagram or whatever, taking up like making masks as a craft, and you know, it's become like now a fashion statement, which is interesting.
That's cool, and so interesting in contrary to the American whole discourse about it, which is like, it's taken away my rights, you know, I can't breathe when I wear a mask, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of heartening that Australia's embrace of that, even if it was a bit begrudging, has seen it be like, okay, let's do this the cool way, let's do this the Melbourne way, because Melbourne is that kind of city. Yeah.
And it is, I mean, I go out basically every time I go downstairs to leave the house for exercise and stuff, and even if you go for a walk, you have to wear it. And I basically forget it every time, and I get to the post box, and then I'm like, shit, my mask, and I have to go back inside. So it's definitely
helping your exercise.
To retrain. It's difficult to breathe. I mean, I probably need to buy a better mask, but we bought these thick cotton ones that they're it's like suffocating.
Yeah,
a little bit.
The Christmas thing, to go back, I thought is one that obviously I've been musing about a little bit, as we're now mid-August. I've sort of given up. There are a couple of weddings this side of Christmas. One of which has been, in fact, both of them have now been postponed, I think. But that was like, there was an October deadline. I was like, oh yeah, I'd like to be back for that. That's ultimately now irrelevant because it's been pushed back. But there's one in January. Who knows where that's looking at this stage? But I'd still sort of had in the back of my head, South Australia's got it under control. New Zealand's got it under control. It's plausible I could get back for Christmas, notwithstanding the whole isolation things on either side. But as the Melbourne one has sort of blown up again, I'm hopeful that it comes under control across the next 6 weeks, but I still feel like there's going to be outbreaks within Australia and possibly a little flurry within New Zealand. And that just makes getting back home pretty unlikely, I would say. And actually the one that sort of blindsided me the other day was KC had asked, hey, did you want to do one of the New Zealand Great Walks over Christmas? Which is like a nice idea, like cool, what a cool thing to go do, one of these great hikes, tramps as they call them over here, and see an amazing part of New Zealand. But it hadn't really registered for me that I would not be going home. And so actually what that suggestion was, or that thought prompted in me was like, I'm not going to see my family for like over a year.
But did
I'm
he
not
mean
be
it
back
like
on
that?
Christmas. No, he totally didn't. He didn't mean to trigger a realization of that. He was just thinking of like something we could do over summer instead,
now,
I suppose. But
side question is, if pandemic withstanding, are you guys at a place where you would maybe bring him home for Christmas this year?
We talked about it. I was hoping to.
Yeah. Okay. So you're there.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But I don't know. I mean, that's just not likely to happen now. But that was another sort of consideration, I suppose. Not consideration, but like something I'd sort of had in the back of my head as something to look forward to is getting to introduce him to people. And like you can, like, they know we're together and they see photos and, families met him over Skype and that kind of thing. But it's different to like actually getting to hang out with people. Yeah. So yeah, that whole Christmas hope is fading a little bit, but it's still plausible. It's plausible.
It's not complete. That
it's not
dream
completely
is not
dead.
Completely diminished.
No.
But I imagine for you, you're in the same boat, probably even more so than me because of the proximity to Adelaide. That Christmas is the one time that you're guaranteed to have everyone in one place.
Yeah.
And that's something that I miss I miss more and more every day that I live away from Adelaide.
Yeah.
Is all of that.
Well, and the other one as well is, my sister's in Melbourne, and she's got a good job. She'd been studying. She got a position after a placement. So she's been keeping busy, but she's living by herself. She had a housemate. Someone moved out after the placement, and then boom, lockdown. And so now she is in a house by herself. And that means she can go out and do the shopping and she can exercise a little bit and that sort of thing. But like she got caught in a situation where there is no social contact for weeks, literally weeks. Man. And that's pretty fucking rough. Even for me with, my boyfriend was living in a different house during our lockdown and we couldn't see each other, but I still had housemates here. I still had other people that I was like able to sit down at the dinner table with or have a drink with. And yeah. So yeah, I feel pretty empathetic for all the people stuck in shitty situations in Melbourne. And I just hope that enough people are taking it seriously this time and the procedures and restrictions are severe enough this time to cut the cases off and get it properly under control so everyone can get back to normal. Yeah,
at least to some degree.
I
think it's really tough. I mean, imagine being in a position where you're you're part of the government making the decisions where the second lockdown I heard cost Victoria, I don't know, maybe like over billions of dollars. And you're faced with the very real possibility, and not even possibility, the real fact that this decision to lock down the city is going to fuck people's lives up. It's gonna some businesses aren't going to make it. Some people are going to become homeless. Well, I think you can't make people homeless, but their financial state's going to be ruined, and yet on the other hand, you just can't. You can't. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's I'm completely sympathetic to it. It's a terrible situation that we found ourselves in, but the thing that has to keep being remembered is that it was not a you either get COVID or you don't get COVID situation. It was this thing is going to hit us like a tidal wave. It's hitting us like an asteroid. Like it's a Deus Ex Machina that just sort of struck the world, and everyone is going to be affected by it. And the choices are only bad choices.
Yeah.
And the decision is that pragmatic sci-fi movie kind of decision making where it's like, how do we save the most lives, even if there are consequences for those choices? It's
you're faced with a real utilitarian kind of scenario.
Yeah, it's true. And hopefully we have a society or a system which is considerate enough in those decisions and in their safety nets so that people who are caught out, the government can take on debt and can pay people a salary to keep them alive or keep them in homes and, that sort of thing, which is one of their duties as the government. But for all of the we were trying to keep the economy going kind of thing, right? And I don't say this with malice, but there was discussion between us in the first lockdown, right, about the Australian methodology of let's try and keep a few things open, let's keep some of the restaurants open and the shops open, hairdressers and that sort of thing, versus the New Zealand one, which was this real aggressive kind of shutdown, which of course had its own consequences for businesses and that sort of thing. But we kind of had a control test, right, where you could see these two methodologies playing out. And now we're seeing potentially what the consequences of those choices were, where because Melbourne didn't quite have it all under control, didn't quite go hard enough with saying, hey, if you're a homewares store, you probably don't need to be open in person to be giving people their, vases. And now everyone there has to go through a second fucking lockdown.
Yeah.
A worse lockdown when everyone's already tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I've been trying to, without a risk of sounding a little douchey here, one thing I've been trying to do lately is whenever I have started to feel maybe a little overwhelmed with the whole situation, which I feel like it's just, you feel like it's, personally I feel like it's just looming there, and if I was lazy with my with checking in on my this is sounding douchey. I've become a douche in lockdown.
I wasn't hearing douche, but go on.
But I've lost my train of thought here.
If you're lazy with checking in with your mental health,
well, lazy with keeping myself, giving myself a reality check every now and then, which is basically just recognizing what I'm grateful for and the position that we're in. Yes, our movements are restricted here, but I lie in bed some nights and I'm thinking, it's fucking cold, and I've got a really nice bed and it's fucking warm, and sometimes I feel this is funny. Sometimes I feel so comfortable in my bed and so cozy that I start to I am so cozy. It reminds me that that other people are not as cozy as me, and then I'm thinking, like, people are on the street in this pandemic.
Yeah.
People, not only is their movement restricted and they have to wear masks, but there's people sleeping at Flinders Station right now in this fucking cold in a sleeping bag on the ground, and here I am in my bed, and I'm fucking cozy as fuck, and I'm gonna come back to this bed tomorrow, and in a month, and in 2 months.
Yeah.
And how lucky am I?
Yeah.
And I feel like, and that this is like a classic meditation trick. And I'm not necessarily doing meditation or anything, but just going over in your head before you go to sleep what you're grateful for is I found a really good way to like keep yourself in check and keep the impending doominess of the situation at arm's length.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that you're able to see it through that lens, even though it is obviously a draining experience and a tiring experience, and I'm sure sometimes a frustrating experience where you're like, why are these fucking assholes going off and like crossing town to go and get a curry, or like having these parties with like 30 people turning up. Like it must be regularly challenging. So it's nice that even in small ways you're able to see that for what it is and to appreciate the luck that you still do have.
Sure.
Yeah, and I suppose employment as well, like money coming in.
Yeah. There's a lot to be grateful for, and it's and it's in many ways it's honestly, in many ways for me it's been a blessing. I've been able to I went on a walk with my sister today, and we check in with each other quite often because we live around the corner, and every time I feel like I'm saying to her, you know, I've just been able to do the things that I wasn't able to do. I have the time to do it, and I have the resources to do it right now, and you know, I've not honestly not been bored.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the biggest thing for most people, I reckon, at the moment is the boredom. And if you can work out a way to not be bored, then you've won.
Yeah.
Should we move on to phase 2?
Yeah.
Woo!
You're really starting to look like Costa the Gardener now.
All right, gonna Google that guy, aren't I? Costa the Gardener. Gonna say, just having no idea who this is. Not looking forward to this. Oh my god. I do know who that is. Fucking hell.
You do though.
Get
you do.
fucked. Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah. In my defense, you can't get haircuts.
Yeah.
But that's
I didn't say it was a bad look for you. I think you've actually never looked more Ukrainian. You've very much embraced your European genetics now. I can actually, this is going to sound weird, but I legitimately can see how you're European now.
Well, you know, the funny thing about that is that people think that Ukrainians or Eastern Europeans are quite hairy. But in fact, I mean, that's what, when Dan and I went to Russia, and that's what we were expecting, and every Russian is clean shaven.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have facial hair, and they're blonde. Well, that's the men. I've just before you get onto
GG
filming, I've stopped not eating meat.
You've stopped not eating meat.
That was a weird way to say it.
Is there another way of phrasing that?
Started eating meat.
Oh.
Again, yeah.
So what's prompted this?
Laziness, mostly, and a little bit of like dietary boredom, just with the lockdown and stuff. Like, my favorite thing to cook is like a slow roasted, like pork or beef curry or chicken curry, like something you can do for hours, and you just can't do that with vegetarian cuisine. And And so one day I was just like, I'm just gonna make a nice slow roasted Sri Lankan black pork curry, and it was so good that I had to say to Emma, "I'm out.
Wow.
I'm not doing this anymore."
You actually broke yourself out of vegetarianism by your own cooking. Hashtag humble brag. My meal was so amazing, I couldn't stop myself from doing it again.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your candor.
Yeah. Well, Emma's not thrilled about it because now I'm like cooking for one. You know,
if you'd like to send your hate mail and disappointment, please do so to deepfort@gmail.com and just put the headline, "Attention, Michael, you fuckwit." And I'll just filter that and we can pass on all your sort of disheartened disapproval, disappointment. And I'll just make sure that he gets it.
Yeah. And Dad, if you're listening, don't email in.
Are you speaking to my dad or to your dad?
I'm speaking to our dad.
Okay. Dad might send you an email.
I've spoken to a little bit, you know.
Yeah, you said that earlier. We moved past it. Why were you talking to my dad?
Because we're friends.
Okay, well.
No, I 100% overplayed that just to see how you'd react.
Okay.
But I emailed him about the merch.
Oh yeah.
Stuff, and then he. He's an easy guy to talk to. I mean, sorry, that's like a loaded thing to say contextually. I just realized that just came out. Sorry, but I mean, he's kind of like I do mean it.
Like he's really just like part of the family, you know.
It's like look, it's like my dad.
How did you get my dad's email?
No, text.
Okay. Okay. That's somehow weirder. I do believe that you actually do have my dad's phone number.
I just saw him on Tinder.
Okay.
That doesn't even make sense. It's kind of like, it's a weird thing with my dad is quite a hard man to me and my brother and my sister kind of. But my cousin Dan, he thought he was the coolest guy in the world, and vice versa. I thought Dan's dad was the coolest, and it's like this weird thing that when it's not your actual son and you don't have like an actual investment in it, then you can afford to be like a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more like,
it's like, yeah, that's someone else's problem.
Yeah. So I don't really. That was kind of unnecessary to say, but I think.
Yeah, I think that's what my dad thinks about you as well.
Yeah, no, I love
that you're someone else's problem.
Yeah, I wish my parents didn't think that as well, though.
Casey said that I'm mean to you on this podcast, and frankly, I don't see it.
Really?
Yeah,
I'll take it. I think we have a dynamic.
That's what I said.
Lends itself to that.
Yeah, I said it. It's entertainment.
Well, thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. Even if I'm the ugly
I'll try and be nicer to you.
Yeah. Well, no, don't. I mean, we're mean to each other. I'm mean to you just behind your back.
Thank you. Thank you. See?
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work if we were nice to each other. You want a fight.
I want a fight. All right. Tell me about your let me rephrase that again. Tell me about you following your dreams.
Wow, that's a big framing.
You are.
Yeah, no, look, I'll take it. It was really great. There's also so much to talk about.
Now for weird news.
Yes. There is so much to talk about here, so maybe I'll give a little bit of sort of an overview, and then so I'm just not rambling and not talking about myself on end. Maybe you ask questions.
I'll chime in so it doesn't make you look like the egomaniac that you are.
Okay, thank you. If we can hide that, and I'll try and fix it in the edit as well.
Sure.
But yeah, so about a month ago, I went up to Auckland for a weekend, which was for the read-through of our show. We had just cast our 3 So I wrote the show with two of my friends, Eve and Grace. They were also going to be the stars of the show. They are sisters in real life, and they're playing sisters on the show. It was a cool premise about two sisters who inherit a funeral home from their grandfather and need to work out what to do with it. And we cast the three other main sort of recurring roles and read through all 6 scripts with them. And the network was there, and we sort of, for the first time, saw it become real. 1 week later, I flew up to Auckland again to stay there for 3 weeks as we shot the thing. We'd been funded to create 6 15-minute episodes for TVNZ On Demand. That's a streaming platform here in New Zealand. So we were making 90 minutes, effectively a feature film. We were shooting 90 minutes worth of TV in 13 shoot days. So it was 2 Monday to Friday weeks and then a Monday to Wednesday, in which we were shooting all 90. So a fairly fast schedule. We were based primarily at a community home that was our stand-in for a bit of a rundown old funeral parlor. But then as time went on and we started to get more of the stuff in the can, the locations shifted to some of the other places we're going to, like people's houses or the chapel, which in the universe of the show is connected to our funeral home, but which in practical terms was on the other side of Auckland. And then things like decor stores and exterior shoots and all this kind of thing, before ending up back there at the community home again on the final day to shoot what was morgue scenes and deceased body kind of things, which was the final day. And it was just like an incredible thrill. We had such an amazing team of people, a team of people that seemed truly enthusiastic to be there, who seemed really appreciative of the group of people, which I didn't have any real control over, but which our production company had pulled together. And people were really excited to be there. They were working with good people. Everyone was lovely. And they were telling me sort of by the end of it, like, oh, don't get used to this because most TV sets aren't like this. And that felt like a real nice sort of compliment as
like
to the...
what?
As in friendly, supportive, a good bunch of people who are working hard, who are invested in what they're making. You know,
Who was telling you that?
Members of the crew seemed to be like really appreciative of this set, because I gather it doesn't always have to be that way, and that's sort of a testament to our production company. And I felt proud to be even minorly associated with that. So that was, a really sort of satisfying experience. But also a long one. It was Eve, who I wrote the show with, and I are based in Christchurch, and so we went up to Auckland and were crashing in a terrible Airbnb for that time. And we had one rental car that we would use to get to set every day, and it was also the picture car for one of our characters on the show, so it was also the one that was seen on screen. And because we only had the one, and Eve was in so many of the scenes, she often had to be on set before 6 a.m. or earlier to get into makeup and wardrobe and start getting ready, because they'll start shooting from like 6:37 in the morning. And so that meant that I, with no other way to get into set, were also going into onto location at like waking up at 5 or earlier and heading in. And then they would be on set for like 12 hours. So you'd be there sort of from 6 to 6 p.m. And they'd, it's quite a pace of things to go through. So it was, I was just there just to sort of watch and to take it all in, to learn how people make TV, let alone, like I didn't really have much to do other than the occasional sort of writing input. But there are people who are doing those kind of hours and actually having to work. So
this is last week, by the way.
Yeah.
I think we should say that.
So this finished. Our last shoot day was basically a week ago from when we're recording this. And yeah, so a fairly intensive sort of 65, 70-hour week, which like compared to some of the other members of the crew, that was pretty small. Like there were those who got there earlier and left later. So yeah, I just have a huge appreciation for the amount of work that goes into all these things, the amount of thought and the number of people with very specific focuses who, you know, are required to make a show like this come to pass. And yeah, by the end of it, I was just feeling very thrilled, with what we'd produced and proud, but also like I'd learnt so much about how it gets done, and in doing so came to appreciate the team of people that had been really doing above and beyond sort of work for what was effectively a very low budget streaming series.
It's kind of crazy, right, that this kind of experience is basically worked up to. I mean, you worked up to this. I mean, and by worked up to, I mean like the experience of being on set. Like you hear these stories from like Bill Hader and stuff being like production assistants or whatever, and then they've gained experience that you've like. The experience that you had is something that you made, and the experience you're having being on set and having that experience is something. It's because of something that you made, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
You're like at the top of the call sheet there, where you're not like even like you're not even just some lackey boy. You're one of the guys.
I was like, it was weird because I was sort of interning on my own show, really.
Right.
Like, I didn't have major responsibilities. Like, I did little bits and pieces. As I said, there'd be writer questions or series questions. Sometimes if you didn't have time to film a scene one day and you had to reschedule it for another day, then we'd have to rewrite that scene because some actors weren't available on the new day that they had in the scene. So you have to like write them out in a way that still gets the point of the scene across, right? So that kind of stuff I did have, you know, minor occasions to help with, and, you know, holding things and just being helpful where I could and staying out of people's way for as much as the rest of the time. But like we had people. One of the cool things about this production as well was that it was really giving people opportunities, whether it was their first time in a role, like they might have been doing one position before and they got an opportunity to step up into a newer role, or even people who are not involved with the production but were interested in learning how a job happens or shadowing a director or that sort of thing, were allowed onto the set to watch the process and to learn from it, sort of like I was. So it was interesting to think that despite, quote unquote, co-creating the show and having some part in it existing, my position on the set was, as you say, basically just interning there, being a guy that got to stand back and watch how people did their jobs. It's a little bit of a dichotomy, I suppose.
So you told me a little bit off air that you found yourself in a position of power, and there were a few people that kind of gravitated towards that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you were.
Well, it was just weird because we had extras on the production, right? Like, so we're a show that's set in funerals, funeral homes in the funeral industry. And so anytime you have a funeral on screen, you need to have mourners, right? You need to have people actually showing up to these things, unless it's like a deliberate plot point that they don't or something. But that, like, extras are expensive. Extras are, you need to pay them or at least give them some kind of compensation. I don't know the specific number, but I know it's something, but it was actually prohibitive to have more than like 7 extras because it got so expensive on a production where we only had $500,000. And I know, yes, $500,000 is a lot of money, but in terms of making television, those costs need to be very carefully considered. And so, like, we were roping in crew and stuff to be like extras in the chapel scenes and that stuff. I can neither confirm nor deny.
That's a yes, baby.
That's a yes.
My boy.
I'm in there. I know you were pressuring me. I was like, oh, Mike will be disappointed if I don't squeeze in.
Yeah, I'm such a good agent.
You're a great agent. And so in this sort of situation where we're having like extras on screen, there's a lot of hanging around. Like, that's one of those things that it's not new news to anyone who's paid half attention to, cast interviews or Hollywood behind the scenes kind of discussions or director's commentaries. But there's a lot of, like, it takes a lot longer to shoot a scene of TV with a single camera or than you'd necessarily expect based solely on that running time, because you set up a room, you run the scene, and the camera's pointed at cast member A, and then you might do a couple of takes at that, and then you want to see who they're talking to, and so you have to move all the camera, all the lights, check that the new angle, everything in the back of shot looks nice, there's no crew or gear or anything like that. You might have to adjust the lighting such that it maintains the same kind of daylight, because in the hour that you've been shooting, now the lights changed through the windows and all this kind of stuff. And then you set
said
it up
you had
and
a
you do it again.
consistency, like someone whose job it was to specifically look out for consistencies.
Yeah, continuity.
Which I found fascinating.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in a sec, but I don't want to lose the train of thought about the extras.
Sure, sorry.
But yeah, so anyway, it's a long process, and as a result, you're having these people standing around, and I was standing around in the back of shot as well because I'd been roped in to be a body. And most of these people are really interesting kind of people who are doing you a service by coming to be part of a show for you, and yes, they're getting a bit of compensation, but it's also, like I said, they're working, they're doing some work. And there were a ton of them which were lovely and really enthusiastic. We had some amazing people. One of our actors or extras who was playing one of the deceased was like a 75-year-old guy, and he was like a total champion, like absolutely the coolest dude. And because when you think about it, like, so he had to be in a coffin. They had to go and take him off to like a prop store and do coffin fittings so that the person that we cast has a coffin that they can fit in, right? Because you don't want to get there on the day and be like, oh shit, he's too tall for it.
Wow.
So you're asking like a 75-year-old man to come along to a warehouse and lie in some coffins for a while and find one that suits. And then, we're putting him in a morgue set, and like
he's like, do I get to keep this?
Like, legitimately, some people would be like, this is a little too close to comfort. But like, he was lovely and enjoyed it, and like all the makeup and crew and everyone like fell in love with him. So like, some truly awesome people being part of it. But there were definitely other sort of extras who were much more motivated by the idea of becoming a Hollywood actor. And
shit.
Yeah, that's not so much a path that people can necessarily get to from our production.
So can you take us through one of those?
Well, yeah.
Encounters?
So I was standing around in this room, and at a certain point, just kind of chatting with the cast in between setups, and Grace had said like, oh, just wanted known for the record that this is Nick's worst nightmare and he didn't want to do this. And I was like, okay, slight exaggeration, but fine. And then the extras all turned to me like, oh, do you know Grace, how are you doing? Why are you here? If you don't want to do this? Because like they'd all been enlisted to be extras, and they opted into this thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually one of the writers, and I just kind of got roped into this because we needed more people. And one guy in particular just sort of instantly was like, oh, you know, I'm going to be an actor in Hollywood, and I've, you know, been practicing my monologues, and, you know, you can get me there, and, you know, it'll be, you know, like, I'm going to do it without an agent. I'm going to do it all off my own back. And I was like, oh, I'm not in control of any of this. I didn't cast the background actors in this, and I didn't even really cast the cast in this, and I don't know anyone in Hollywood, and I don't know why you would think that this is the conversation that you should have with me, because I do not have any need for hearing your monologues.
That is both like the cringe. That is like so cringy to me, but also such a fantasy of mine, and this probably does not speak well to my character, that I would love to be in the position where someone was groveling to me like that, and someone was just like,
I'm in love with this idea.
I would just, my instinct, I think, would be to fuck with them. Did you have any of that impulse at all? Just to be like, actually, no, you know.
It was just a little bit. It was a little bit more than I was really prepared for, because it just took me by surprise, because I obviously don't think of myself as having any kind of like control over that. And
so outside of the podcast, you don't feel like you have any control?
You trying to say something?
Yeah.
You trying to make a point?
Yeah, I'm trying to make a fucking point.
Okay, well, I guess you've correctly identified that this is my one outlet to feel like I have a handle on the world. So I'm sorry if it means that I'm mean to you and tell you what you can and can't say.
Look, Nick, hurt people hurt people. So a question, something I always wonder when I'm watching a TV show or a movie, is the disconnect that happens between, okay, so you've got a good script and you've got a good cast and whatever, but there's something funny that happens in between where actors, you could have like Christian Bale sign on to a movie that has a really good script, and then the movie, for whatever reason, for the directing or whatever, it turns out poorly. So I'm wondering what insight do you have after filming your show, if any, do you have between having the script and the end product, and seeing the dailies and having a sense of how it's actually going to turn out in terms of the tone and how it could potentially be received? What a good question, dude.
Yeah, it is a good question. I was about to give it to you, but then you preempted me giving you a compliment with your own compliment, and that's made it less impactful. But it is a good question. The truthful answer is I don't know yet whether or not it worked, because I haven't seen final products of, you know, what our edits were. So I'm not far enough through the process to be able to look at the final thing and be like, yeah, we did it, or no, we didn't do it. Which, you know, it is still ongoing. I could hazard a guess as to some of the reasons why a thing might happen, or why a product that you start with is not the product that you end up with. And some of that might be budgetary or time pressures. So if you don't have the money to do a thing properly, like if you're, and this isn't going to be a problem for us, I don't think, but if you've only got the budget to have 7 extras and you have to reuse them across different funerals and that sort of thing, then you're not going to get the same scale or same impact of a funeral, say, that you could if you had, you know, $1 million an episode and you could fill up a chapel. There's also timing things like that as well, where time is money. You can't add another shoot day without it costing another day's pay for all of your crew. So if something takes longer to film than you expected, then you might not be able to get all the coverage on it, or you might not be able to do enough takes to let the actor deliver something, like really get into the zone and give an emotional performance, say, if they've only got an hour and a half to do it. These are hypotheticals. I'm not drawing on specific good grief examples here, but I could imagine how, like, okay, fuck, we don't have enough time to fully get all the coverage of this scene, so we'll have to make do with the couple angles we have in the light or in the location before we have to keep moving. Then there could also be things where it's like the vision being communicated and worked on in sync among the crew, right? Like our team was all very much sort of on the same page from the director down as to what they were going for.
Right.
So that helps you if you have a shorthand between all the crew, but also to, make sure that there's a consistency in that everyone is pulling in the same direction together. But if you had, say, a more problematic director, like if you had a Brian
Michael
Singer.
Bay.
No, Michael Bay, by all accounts, is a terrific director, but Mike, as a person and producing director, if you have something where the director is trying to make one thing, but he's like, off his face on drugs, and then like the studio has to step in and is trying to pull the film in a different direction, then you've got a competing vision or a conflict between different units of the thing. Then you might end up with a product which is torn between two identities or two voices, in a way that does a disservice to either interpretation. And then so budget, time, money, vision. I suppose the other thing is potentially outside influence, where if a studio or something was trying to make the bigger picture, marketable, mainstream version of a thing, and the inclination of the script or the director was a smaller or more indie or more abstract or avant-garde film, then you might find that because even if all the crew and everyone on the production was working in the same direction, that you then have an edit that is pulled together or retoned, toned with or meddled by an external influencer to then create something which was different to what it was intended to be.
Right.
So that's just.
So do you think?
Do
you have
hypotheticals?
Do you think that that Good Grief, the crew that you have in Good Grief, Good Grief, and the control that you have over it is kind of safe from those factors?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like in the moment, at least, that.
Like, do you think that you'll be able to make? Well, I'm not sure how much control you have over the edit or whatever, piecing it together. But do you feel like as a crew you have enough control over the project that you can make it will come out how you want it to come out?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing because at this phase, it was no longer just ours, right? Even in the
That's
proposal,
weird though, isn't it?
It is.
Be yours. It should still be yours.
Well, it's always going to be somewhat still ours, but it.
But
Like
don't
if
you feel
you're
like you should have some some control over the editing? I just feel like that. I have no idea how this works. I just feel like ethically you should have some. You wrote the thing. You should have some say over how it's.
Yeah,
edited,
and we'll still be credited as creators and writers on the thing, but this is part of the thing of making an art with people, is that it becomes more than just ours. That's what you need in order to make a thing, right? Unless it's something like music where you can be the entire person from top to bottom of a thing, and even then you probably still need to hand it over to an audio engineer at some point, or a marketing department, or get a photographer in to take a photo for the cover and that kind of thing. Like, part of the deal of I wrote a thing that as a writer you need to
surrender,
accept, is you will have to surrender it to other people if you want it to be not just words. And for sure, like there was when you're on set, when I was on set, part of that process was coming to terms with like, this isn't actually something I get a say in.
Right.
Not that I was trying to actively meddle in things, but like, you have brought on a team of people who are excellent at their jobs, and you have to trust in them. And that's part of their creative authority, is to make decisions in those areas. and at some point it'll end up back, in our laps again, and I will get to see the edits and have some feedback on that, as will the network and others. But in this process, I don't get to tell an actor how to say their lines. I don't get to tell the director that we need to get more coverage of this character or something. Like, you kind of have to be okay with
art as well,
letting it go, which is definitely, don't get me wrong, it's like a weird feeling, because for so long it was an us project, and us was 3 people.
Yeah.
And now it was like 40 people.
I think I had like a similar feeling doing like Brokers when I was writing the songs, like having an idea of what like a melody might be, or what a drum beat might be, but then your vision of the song, when Ben comes up with a completely different drum beat than I had imagined, that's kind of like the beauty of art is the collaborate when it is collaborative. It's like all these different, you can have like a strong vision of what you want in the first place, but art's kind of beautiful when it's kind of melded together with other people's interpretations. And if it was just your vision from start to finish, it might, that has every chance of, being, a flop or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because you're not willing to let people in.
This was, already one of those sort of things that when we started this project, we were writing it as 3 people as well, right? Like, I'm a writer who'd only ever written stuff singly. And now it's like, okay, there's 2 other voices in this thing. And that was part of that process, is realizing, okay, there's 2 other people here, and they have ideas about the characters, and they have ideas about how the story should finish and what the dialogue should be. And that in itself was its own thing of like, okay, now it's not just my word, literally, I suppose, but you have to accept the input and rely upon your co-creators and co-writers as well. And the reason that this show was what it was entirely because it was the 3 of us writing it. And I know that there are jokes and there are things that happen in this show structurally and character-wise that are entirely the result of working with 2 women on this project as well. And I just couldn't have made this show. I literally by myself could not have made this show. So I had already sort of come to that understanding in the writing phase, and it was the next step of that was having to then accept it in the production phase as well, where it's like, okay, I'm literally here to watch and try and stay out of people's way. And you have to trust that everyone else is doing their work. And of course they were, and of course it was terrific. And I feel very sincerely that our show is going to bat above its budget, in the sense that I feel like it will look better, hit harder, be more impressive than you would expect for a $500,000 budget. That's cool. I've seen the dailies come through. We were shooting with a camera that we, by all accounts, should not have had access to, which was the Sony camera, the Sony Venice, which James Cameron is using on Avatars 2 through 5 currently. And we were shooting like a 6K on this incredible Leica lenses, and just like technically, it looks so fucking shit hot that it just kind of blew my mind every time I was watching on the monitors.
That's amazing, dude. That's
so
good.
I am already confident. If none of the show works whatsoever, I can at least tick the box knowing that it does not look like a YouTube video. It looks like a fucking good 90 minutes worth of film quality or prestige TV quality series. And for everything else, that happened. And that is entirely due to the directors and, camera team and director of photography who you let do their work, right? Like, I didn't have any control over them or say over them. So that's, again, the benefits of the collaborative process is we have this shit hot looking show because people got to do their work.
That's awesome, man. I literally cannot wait to see that.
Yeah.
I cannot wait, dude.
Our time frame, like, after all this process, we started writing this series in 2017, end of 2017. Been 2.5 years to get to this point where we were in production. And now we're on this home stretch where it is the downslope. It's post-production. You know, we're in edits. I'll be seeing tomorrow, probably, the rough cuts of the first 3 episodes. You know, it's...
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah.
What? That's going to be exciting.
So we're in a zone now where the thing exists. It has been filmed. It is a real product after years of development. And now it really won't be too long before we can, you know, get a trailer together and I can send to you, here's the thing that I made, you know?
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. I had this thought.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Go on. You go.
No. I just remembered that I had like little notes here of things that I wanted to talk about. But go ahead.
Okay. Mine's a little bit of a tangent, but it's kind of a bridger. So do you want to go?
Okay, I'll go. There was one other thing which I'll just quickly throw in, which was one of the most unexpected delights of this process was getting to, in real time, witness and be part of the blooper reel moments. Like, I fucking love, you know, you watch those Parks and Rec moments or like the Brooklyns or whatever, or The Office, where, you know, they're off on this riff and someone's like gone off on a tangent or it's like cracking up one of the other cast members, but they're trying to keep it together. And everyone is sort of like got this like inhale of breath because they're like just trying to just hold it until someone says cut and like keep it together. Like all of the crew would be like deathly silent, trying their best not to lose their shit. And
love a bloop.
And then it breaks and everyone just like cracks up laughing and like there's this sort of release of, you know, energy and laughter and enthusiasm and everything. And it is one of the most satisfying things to be part of or to witness, is not just up close seeing those moments like play out with funny people, but occasionally, very occasionally, to be like, we scripted this thing and it is breaking people and people can't get through this scene or can't deliver this stuff without ruining someone else. And that was like one of our jokes, right? Like, it's just like the most ridiculous like combination of silly, giddy euphoria and ego trip and like TV fanatic, like behind the scenes kind of experience. And like, yeah, just getting to like,
are you gonna leave
enjoy? Probably not leave.
Does it fit the tone?
No, it doesn't fit the tone. Okay. But there's got to be a collection of some fun stuff there, which we can. I don't know. I'll at least get to see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so real world bloopers just as good, if not better, than the ones you see cut together.
I love a real world bloop. I was going to ask. I had this thought, and so I'm wondering if this is maybe a consideration that you had, that with the world basically being not reinvented, but reprogrammed. I don't know what the word is. Redesigned in the last 6 months with the pandemic.
Yeah.
That, I mean, we're seeing all these shows and movies. Netflix is still dropping shows. They're still dropping movies. But we're seeing all these people, all these shows filmed before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I thought the other day, are we going to get to a point where we're seeing people on screen interact, see strangers come up and hug or handshake, where it's going to be kind of unrelatable.
Yeah.
That we're going to see people on screen not addressing a pandemic, and the art that's coming, the art that's being produced is actually not reflecting that. So it's actually not going to be that relatable.
I think it's definitely likely, if not already happening. I mean, there are series that are still debuting, as you said, that were filmed last year and in post-production since the pandemic. And, you know, any sort of crowd scene or like walking down the street and not seeing people in masks or that kind of thing. I think people will definitely notice that. We had a bit of an intellectual exercise to work out whether in our most recent rewrites, which were during and after lockdown, whether we needed to incorporate COVID into our show, right?
Yeah.
COVID
did you?
was literally about death, and it was affecting the funeral industry. People couldn't go to funerals because they couldn't congregate.
Yeah.
There was like narrative opportunities there. But
Totally.
it's such a weird one. A, because it's a too soon thing. B, if you're so sick of COVID, do you want to watch a show which is already somewhat taboo, somewhat intense by being about death and the funeral industry? Do you also then want it to be about the thing that you're trying to escape? And if we did it, could you do it as a throwaway? Could you set it in the past? Well, that sort of feels disingenuous. You can't just sort of like make a rough allusion to it and then keep on as scripted. You'd kind of have to redo so much narratively about, you know, how we'd gotten to this place. And it just became this big... There was just a lot of reasons not to do it, and not many compelling ones to do it. At least at that point in that season. If we were lucky enough to get a second season, then I think we'd be starting from fresh again, and we might have the opportunity to work out a way to handle it. But
I guess it's different in New Zealand as well.
Exactly.
Because the situation's not so dire, but it's going to be interesting because we're going to see this wave of art, movies, TV shows, maybe even music that's going to come probably in 6 months because it's being produced now, of art that's actually really addressing the pandemic and adapting to the pandemic and reflecting people's situations in the pandemic. So we're going to get this whole wave of new art.
But the interesting, I mean, that might be true of something like music, but it won't be true practically of something like American TV or even British TV. You just simply won't be able to produce that art because of the very subject of it, right? Like,
well, that's the thing.
How do you make a movie about COVID
do it
until it's fixed, right? I agree with it when it comes to like painting or, you know, visual arts or music and that kind of stuff. There's a bit more thing, but
what people are, I mean, the music, when I said was suggested music, that was a throwaway.
Yeah.
Like what are people going to write a song about the pandemic?
Yeah,
like,
I guess. Yeah.
I felt like TV and movies, that's where you should be seeing it reflected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, we have an opportunity in New Zealand to film things in close proximity, to be confident that there's been no community transmission for 100 days in New Zealand. So it's not out and about. We can film things where we can have extras in a chapel and all of our crew can pile into the pews to fill it out, and there can be 50 people in a little chapel. And that's one of the few places in the world where that's possible. So in the end, it felt like to then script in COVID again meant that you're not taking advantage of the opportunity you have, because the rest of the world now can't do crowd scenes and can't do anything. So let's make a show that I don't actually even know the answer of when it's set now, because it's kind of, it's a modern day show, but I don't know if it's like pre-pandemic. I don't know if it's alternate timeline where there was just never a pandemic. But I mean, I'm almost tempted by that idea. It's an interesting kind of wrinkle in our creative concept, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, so what's the timeline of now to finished product
I don't know
for
the
the show?
specifics, but I think that we need to deliver the finished product this year. And then beyond that, it's sort of up to the network as to when it gets aired. But even so, I feel like we're closing in now on a point in which this thing is going to be out there and it's going to be real. And hopefully once we get our cuts done and semi-finalized, we can start to go to places like Australia and hopefully find someone interested over there to pick it up as well, so that you guys can all watch it legit there too.
Cool.
Well, that's enough about me. If you've enjoyed that and want to hear more about me, then you can find all our past history on your podcast app and at deepthought.podbean.com. Don't listen to the audio there on deepthought.podbean.com, though. That's an inelegant way of doing it. Make sure you use a podcast player. Use your Apple Podcasts. Use your Google Podcasts. Use Overcast. Use it like a real podcast. None of this web streaming shit on the website. You can also find photos and posts and interesting thoughts at Facebook. The Deep Thought page there has lots of entertainment. The Instagram.com, well, not .com, just Instagram. Deep Thought, which does not have any evidence that Michael does any workouts. There is a Twitter if you want to get notified when things come up. You can send your questions and enthusiasms to deepthought@gmail.com. And if you're on the internet and you see an opportunity to rate us, give us the old 5 stars. It does help. And that is that.
Why do you say notified? You say notified. It's so weird.
What do you mean?
You say notified.
Yeah.
What the fuck is your problem?
What do you mean? What's the alternative?
Notified. It's obviously notified.
It's not obviously notified.
Notified. What are
You're
you,
saying it
fucking
more.
Queen Elizabeth the
You want it to be notified.
It's notified.
You clearly notified.
Notified.
Is the much more
What are
British.
You sound like Ricky
Yeah.
Gervais. Notified.
Yeah. Oh, I heard that we'd been notified. You clearly yours is the more Ponzi British. I can't believe that that's your angle with this.
Notified. I think notified is more acceptable.
I disagree.
Notified.
Send in
is
your thoughts
fucking
and
weird.
comments to Facebook and send us an Instagram message and we'll let you know what the results are about notified versus notified. Outros. Got some bits and pieces.
Quickly, one thing I had written down and that I didn't say at the top is that I just wanted to say that a lot of people actually, and mostly people that listen to Deep Thought, reached out and messaged me personally when the Victorian lockdown happened again. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciated that a lot. And yeah, it made me, it's nice that it's nice that people are listening in the first place, and it's nice that people, I mean, they're mostly people that we know, but it makes me feel like it feels cozy when people specifically reach out and this was like 7 people that personally messaged me and said, "Hope you're doing okay in lockdown." So that was one thing. The other thing was the merch is out now.
Merch is out.
So
You're rocking
mugs.
your Deep Thought t-shirt right now.
Rocking it right now. I think everyone's got their merch. It's a stupid idea and it's a great idea in terms of marketing in the first place, because basically we've given a mug to everyone that listens to the podcast, but
I hope you have, because now you've really stitched yourself up. If you haven't got a mug right now, then that's because you're not a good enough listener. Is that what you're saying? Quote Michael Zabrecki.
Here's the test. If you didn't get a mug and you feel like you should, send us an email. Because if you've gotten this far in the podcast, you probably deserve one. but we're sold out. I mean, it's easy to sell it when you give it away and you've only got 10 listeners. But
huge demand.
We sold out.
Huge demand for the cups that we gave to people. Huge demand.
We've completely sold. I have literally none left, but you know, who knows with Nick's show, might get a
little
pump.
dose of investment.
So if you're a Good Grief fan and you're retroactively listening to all the Deep Vault podcasts because you looked Nick up and you discovered that he had a podcast, and now you're working your way back through the back catalogue. Send us an email, and for, you know, a price that we will negotiate over email, we'll send you a mug.
So wait, these people have to pay for it.
We're gonna make the new people have to pay for it because we're gonna make money back on the last round of money.
Yeah, which you very generously just paid right out of pocket.
Look, I've been drinking a lot, and I've had a lot of ideas. Usually after midnight, that I've been very enthusiastic about, and you know, I like the project.
Can I say sincerely, new mugs, very nice, and thank you to Sean for helping you with cutting out the image so it fits nicely on it. He got his mug the other day. It's got a lovely blue interior, and he was fucking on board with it. He said, "Quote: the blue makes this mug." He was very enthused by that choice.
Can I just say something about little old Sean there? I've never met Sean. However, I've met you.
Okay.
And I gather if I saw Sean walking down the street, I wouldn't recognize him. That's how much I don't know him. I've never met him. However, that guy is so fucking cool to me. Like he hits me up in like at the most weird points in time. You know, I sent him a happy birthday. I sent him the weirdest happy birthday message the other day that I could possibly muster. Oh, God. And he was so receptive to it. And, you know, I asked him for the Deep Fort logo without the thing. And I said, we'll send you a mug. And he was so on board. And I just, you know, for a guy that I've never met, you know, I really love that guy. Yeah, I really want to meet him. Or maybe I don't. You don't want to meet your heroes.
Oh,
do you?
His ears will be
that's
burning.
Too far.
Which
And
for him is a huge...
Ears, doesn't he? I do know that.
That is a joke for 3 of us. Maybe 4 of us. But fuck, that's so funny that you went there, dude. Oh, sorry, Sean. We love you.
You're leaving that in.
That's
right?
so brilliant. Yeah, that's staying in. Cool. So
does Obama, by the way.
Say what?
So does Obama.
So does Obama. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I think he's probably feeling a lot happier now. I had one little story to wrap up with, which is a different tone. But you know, let's just fucking do it. So I spent the better part of 3 weeks up in Auckland, a bit over 3 weeks, with the read through and then some time back in Christchurch and then up for 2.5 weeks of the shoot. And then at the end of that Wednesday, was the wrap and the wrap party that night. And then on the Thursday morning, KC, my boyfriend, came up from Christchurch and we went off to do a road trip. And we used Auckland as our base, grabbed a rental car and head up to the top of the Cape of, top of the North Island and back down again across 4 days. It was lovely. Like, I'd done that route before. He hadn't. Getting to see some amazing scenery, some really cool places. The Kauri forests, the Tapaki sand dunes, the Cape Ranga lighthouse, there's a bunch of amazing stuff in Northland. And then on the last day, on the way back down to Auckland, we nearly died because we were in our car and we nearly got into a head-on collision. We were driving through a town on the way back between Dargaville and Auckland, and we came down this sort of slight incline through a city. Like it was a town. It was pretty small. Through a town centre. We were going about 30 k's an hour. Well, we're probably starting at 50 k's an hour, and the road declined, and then it curved a little bit to go over what was a small 2-lane bridge, and then back up the other side and on into the main street. And as we came down this little incline, everything absolutely normal. We were at the speed limit.
Who was driving?
KC was driving, and
okay.
Then up ahead.
Can I make the joke?
Don't make the joke, because he literally saved our lives.
Okay.
In the lane ahead of us, driving straight at us, was another car. They were in their right-hand lane, our left-hand lane, and they were literally...
They were in your lane.
They were in our lane, tearing towards us at 50 k's an hour, directly at us. And it was so quick, but Casey reacted. He swerved off, towards the curb, screeched his brakes to come to a stop, and luckily, the driver coming the other way pulled himself back into the correct lane and sped off past us, and we just sort of
what was he
froze.
doing?
Well, that was the immediate question. But sincerely, if Casey hadn't reacted, we would have completely head-on collision with this thing, and legitimately, it would have been fucking disastrous.
Oh my God! Wait, so this guy was just... What was he doing? Just having a fucking cruise on the other lane? He's just I want to see what the other side of the road feels like.
It wasn't like he drifted over the line.
Honey, this is how they drive in America.
Well, that was one of the thoughts, right? He was legitimately in our lane, not crossed over the middle, not whatever. He was 100% he was driving directly between the lines towards us. And so Casey had thought, clearly he was a foreigner. He'd pulled out of a parking lot or whatever, forgotten that he needs to be on the other side, and had been stuck there until he realized, oh shit, and pulled out of the way. I don't know if that's the case. I wondered if it was a micro sleep, whether he'd nodded off. I wondered whether he was distracted. He was on his phone.
Was there a passenger? In the other
I think he was by himself. But this guy, not only completely endangering our lives, very lucky that Casey was so in control to stop the car and get us out safely, but he didn't fucking stop. He just kept driving. So we're frozen there, stuck in the middle of the road, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? I turn around to look at it, and I watch this guy speed off, but I'm not thinking clearly enough to be take a photo of the number plate, try and remember anything about it. I'm just holy shit, we nearly died. And this guy just drives off. No, doesn't even stop. And I'm you literally nearly killed all of us. Why?
Wait, so when you guys almost connected, the two cars almost connected.
Yeah, and he goes
that,
and he just sped off.
And you guys pull over. And you're
yeah.
And you're we're stopping because this was a moment.
That was...
And the other guy stops for a second and then just nothing happened.
Doesn't stop.
I'll just think about this later.
Doesn't stop. Just swerves back into the lane and keeps driving. Doesn't pause. Doesn't even stop at all.
Well, at least he swerved back into the lane.
Well, yeah. But so after a moment, man. We're fuck, did you see, did you get the number plate or anything? And I was oh, no, not really. So we actually did a UE to try and see if he'd pulled...
What?
We'll see if he'd pulled over further up the road. But
what were you going to do with the number plate? You're going to say, hey...
Fucking report him to the cops.
What? And say, this guy... What are they going to do? What proof do they have?
Well, there is an actual... there's a thing called Star 555, I think, in New Zealand, which is literally a community reporting of bad drivers.
But is it like
and it
if you
goes through the
report
police.
someone, it's like that's fine. They'll just be like, okay, someone reported you for bad driving, so here's a fine.
Yeah. So
What?
If you call star 555, you report a road incident that's urgent but not life-threatening. So non-injury crashes, traffic congestion, breakdowns, obstructions. It goes to police communications center, but it's not as important, like not given the priority that a 111, like an emergency call, would get. But they're like, that person will be contacted, and you don't actually need video or photo evidence. So
There'll be contact.
Yeah, they'll get, for like road watch, which it's like you don't want the person to be prosecuted. They would just send them a contact and warn them. But if you do report something that's unsafe, they'll of course be, actually prosecuted if they can prove it. But yeah, so like anyway, like getting the license plate would have been a very useful thing to have had. But like that's the ultimate kind of irritation and injustice for me, because like I was shaking afterwards and I was very grateful that we had survived it. But the fucking goal of this guy in multiple ways, A, to be so, inattentive to cause this situation, B, to then not even have the fucking human decency to stop and check that we were okay or anything. And then C, to know that because we didn't get his number plate or anything like that, that he will not see any even comeuppance for doing what he did, is so fucking frustrating. But ultimately, after the subject of the show that we were making and a fucking lovely getaway of a long weekend, it wasn't enough to dampen things, but it would have been a somewhat thematically ironic end if that had been it went.
It would actually be perfect.
Was it you driving?
Think about it. If you just finished. A man in his 30s today died after filming a show, ironically, about, get this, funeral homes.
You forgot what my show was.
I fucking booked it, yeah. I forgot Is it about... I was going to say nursing homes. I'm sorry. I did. I really wish I nailed that. That would have been a great outro.
Yeah.
And now this is going to be the outro, which sucks.
Ugh. I could maybe delete this.
No, I think it's funny.
You think mine nearly dying is funny?
I think you nearly dying is hilarious, dude.
You only get to make that joke because I survived.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I actually do have something to say on what you just said.
This is weird. Okay, yeah.
So I've works. I haven't had that much to do at work these days. So, like I sent you earlier, I've been when I've had no work to do, I've been making these high resolution, great
Photoshops,
deep thought Photoshop things, and so I've spent quite a bit of time actually on your Facebook page going through photos that actually fit what I'm trying to put your face onto. And one thing that struck me, and it struck me at the time, is your profile picture that you have at the moment. Great photo.
Okay.
It's got all of your face in it. It's a great photo. But every time I look at that photo, I think, this looks like the photo of someone that has died tragically, and I'm seeing this on the news. Like, do you ever wonder, like, if you die under like newsworthy circumstances, that the news is going to go to your Facebook profile and look through all the public photos and then pick a photo, and that would be the photo that they use, and that would be the photo that gets broadcast. And your photo, your profile picture, is just like screams tragic
died in a car
accident. It really does. And yeah. I mean, it's a great photo. You look great. And I gotta say, I gotta say this, and I say this. I I say this reluctantly, Nick.
Oh no.
No, it's actually a compliment. That's why I'm saying
okay.
it reluctantly. A few of my female friends, a few of my male friends actually as well, but a few of my female friends actually think you're a little bit of a stud.
Oh God, they use that phrase.
My girlfriend included, which is news to me. But apparently, you're a little bit of a hot guy.
Can I tell you something funny, which is gonna then it's a bad humble brag. It's just kind of a brag now that I've acknowledged it. But I was repeatedly mistaken for one of the cast when I was on set, because I would be sitting on the chairs kind of aimlessly and like clearly not doing any like heavy lifting or important work. And so like the makeup artist on the first day came up and like, hi, I'll be doing your makeup today. And I was like, oh no, I'm not one of not one of the actors.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but like enough times that it was weird. And I was like, okay, well.
Oh, it happened more than once.
Yeah, it happened like 3 times that people thought I was.
Wow.
I was. Okay, so this is another weird.
And didn't you have models on set?
We had literal models on set.
Okay, next week I'm bringing you right back down to earth. From
Please
minute
do.
one,
This has already been too obnoxious. But look, let's right into it. Right. So at the end, so there was a rap party on the Wednesday night, and the casting agent was there, and I had interacted with her or known of her from the process in which we were casting the show, and but I'd never met her and I'd never sort of seen her either. So I just saw some of my friends like having a chat at this bar, and I wandered over to say hi and join the conversation and introduce myself to this woman. And she was like, and I said, oh hi, I'm Nick. And she goes, oh hi, yeah, we've met. I was like, she's like, yeah, we've met. I was like, oh, sorry, I'm not sure I know you. And she's like, oh, I'm the casting agent. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think we've met. And she's like, yeah, we have. You came in for an audition. And I was like, nope, I'm not an actor. And she was like very put out by that. And she was like, huh. And she looked at me in a way as if to say,
you snubbed her.
Yeah, well, as if to be like, either why are you playing this weird game with me? I can cast you in like anything, and if you're going to be weird to me, then you're not going to get any roles in this damn town again. Or B, hey, this guy really looks like he could be an actor.
Oh my god. And he doesn't want me, which means I need him.
Yeah. Clearly this alpha game.
You're playing the game.
This alpha game.
Oh,
yeah.
Baby, you're hot property.
Yeah. Lots of
shit, dude.
I think I might be hot. I'm starting to believe it.
Dude, I'm reluctantly thinking that as well. I always thought you were just some fucking nerd. And here I am.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's coming to me and
parts.
saying your fucking podcast buddy is a little bit of a catch. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, times they change.
Times are a-changing, guys. We should get that on a mug. The times they are a-changing. Deep Thought.
Deep Thought.
Deep Thought said that.